Today, it is time to talk about all the hidden things that surround you every day, all day, that are impacting your health. Of course, I have to cough on the first sentence. Your environment, the things you're exposed to, all of it could be making you sick and be the cause of why you don't feel well all the time, right? So today we have to talk about that. We have to talk about, what is in your world that could be making you feel unwell. We're going to dig into it and see how it affects your health. But of course, we got to let you know how to reach me and my team. So in case you didn't know, you're watching the new method, the new spelled with a K. Why? Because you always knew there was a better way. And I'm Dr. E. If you are listening on the podcast, just listen. The only thing you're missing is that my hair looks awesome. And today I'm wearing a black vest. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, if you aren't already following us on Instagram and TikTok, what are you waiting for? We have so much happening there. Let's go. And if this topic speaks to you, don't forget to share it with someone that you love so that they can become the game changers in their life. So let's roll in and start talking about what is it that we even mean when we say the environment around us. And I'm sure when I say environment, people visualize different things. Maybe some of you think of serene woods, like chirping birds, beautiful blossoms. And some people think of bustling streets and buses, maybe factories. And the answer is yes to both. But to give you a better idea of what we mean by environment, I want to introduce you to 4 types of environments that maybe you never categorize this way. So the first, more obvious one is what we call our nutritional environment, right? We need to understand the concept of nutritional environment. When we talk about nutritional environment, it doesn't just mean the food we eat. It's a lot broader than that. It encompasses everything that influences our eating habits, our cultural norms, advertisements. But let's start with the actual food part first. Let's get through what we mean by environment there. Because most diseases start where nutrition ends. As far as what's on your plate, we already know that the standard American diet, coined SAD, sad because it's so sad, filled with processed foods, sugary beverages, fatty products. SAD is linked with so many chronic diseases: obesity, heart disease, blood pressure, diabetes, and even certain types of cancer. High calorie intake from SAD, especially from processed foods, leads to weight gain, obesity. But that's just the basics. What about GMOs, genetically modified organisms? These are plants and animals whose DNAs have been tweaked to make them we want. We want to make them bigger, redder, pest resistant. But the thing is, our bodies sometimes don't know what to do with all this tampered goodness. And then added to that, we have additives, things that make products tastier or improve how they look, artificial colors and chemicals that add to the food, red dye number 40 in candies, cereals, soft drinks. And there are so many studies to suggest that can cause all kinds of issues. We have preservatives in our food so that they last longer on their shelves or stop bacteria from growing. And that's a harmful chemical. Flavor enhancers to make things taste better, like MSG used in soups and restaurant dishes. That causes headaches and sweating and chest pain. We're going to get into that. Emulsifiers, stabilizers, things you might not even know are on your labels. These are not things that are naturally found in your food. These are additives to help maintain texture and consistency of food. All of this is part of your nutritional environment. Sweeteners, everything that we use for sugar substitutes. And if that wasn't enough, the other part of our nutritional environment that we need to consider is what's available in our local supermarket. What can we afford to buy? What is in our culture? What's normal for our culture to eat? How do we prepare our foods in our culture? Our nutritional environment is also how we eat. Do we sit down at a family meal? Do we stand over the sink and eat real quick? Is your environment about speed and efficiency and meal prep? Is your environment about making things look aesthetically pleasing on a plate? There is so much to consider when it comes to nutritional environment. And it's way more than just, hey, go gluten-free. There's so much happening. The next type of environment we have to talk about is the physical environment. The physical environment is everything around us, both natural and human-made. It includes the air we breathe, the water we drink, the land we live on, and even the buildings and parks we use. But sometimes, as you know, toxins and pollutions mess this up too. So let's start with the air we breathe. We breathe in a whole cocktail of potentially damaging substances every day, including the stuff that's floating in the air, the cars, the trucks, machines, carbon monoxide, lead, nitrogen dioxide, all these fumes. There's things, particulates, which means droplets of chemicals that we're constantly breathing in that messes with our systems and contributes to respiratory problems, heart disease. Our water contains harmful substances, lead, mercury, arsenic, nitrates. could be from industrial waste that gets into our water, gets into our groundwater, and we already know there's a strong link of that to cancers. On our plates, we discussed our nutritional part, but what about the pesticides? And that's a major source of toxins. These are chemicals that we use to keep pests away from our crops, but they harm our health and they go into our nervous system. The one that's most commonly known is glyphosate, which is found in Roundup, the weed killer, and that is linked to so many cancerous, hormonal disruptions, birth defects, you name it. What about inside our house? We still have mold. We have toxins in our house like mold, lead, asbestos, radon. Sometimes you get those inspected when you buy a new home. Lead in old paint or in your pipes can be inhaled, can be touched, could be ingested. There's so much happening inside and outside of our house. The third kind of environment that we are talking about when we're talking about environment is biological environment. So we've talked about the things that we kind of sort of could control in our nutrition and our physical environment, but there are living biological things all around us that also could make us ill. So one of the most common ones, I mentioned it earlier, is mold. And mold is a fungi. It grows in damp conditions, indoors and outdoors. And for most people, it really does nothing. You breathe it in, you go on with your day. But for some people, it's quite a big deal and can cause anything from allergies to some serious systemic mold toxicity. Another potential harmful thing, biological environment, bacteria, right? There's bacteria all around us. One that is commonly known to cause trouble is E. coli, and we can get that from eating contaminated food, drinking dirty water, cause upset stomach, diarrhea, vomiting, cramps. It could really harm us, but there are other different, less well-known bacteria living all around us and inside of us that can really contribute to our health. We also have viruses, of course, things that we touch, people sneezing, shaking hands. We also can get sick from parasites, which are tiny organisms that live in us or around us. We have toxic algae in the water. And then, of course, there's allergens all around us. So this is all that we're talking about when we're talking about the biological environment. And the last environment I want to bring to your attention as we slowly panic around what's around us is the social environment. This is something we rarely talk about when we talk about environment, the social environment. It's not something, we can't touch it, we can't see it, but it affects our feelings, our thoughts, our actions. And this encompasses all the relationships and interactions we have with each other. It's everything from your family dynamics, your workplace, your culture, your societal expectations, to the level of support you get when you're feeling down. Humans are social beings. Our well-being relies heavily on our relationships with others. Having a strong support system, family, friends, community. The studies have shown that social connections lead to longer, happier lives, and loneliness and social isolation can lead to depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. And on the other hand, dealing with toxic or abusive relationships can have serious negative effects on our health. And when we look at stress specifically, it works like an alarm system for us. When we sense trouble, our body gets ready to deal with it, starts releasing chemicals, does all kinds of things to our bodies that was meant to deal with short-term stress. But it wasn't meant to handle that for long-term stress. And what if the trouble doesn't go away, the stress doesn't go away, and all these chemicals are switched on? This obviously has repercussions to our body. So our social environment, our friends, our families, our relationships, our work, social media, it could be a toxic place or it could be a peaceful place. Your social environment is full of either nutrients or toxic poisons. Okay, so now we understand the 4 types of environments. When we say environment, now we know what we mean, and it's pretty robust understanding, right? It's not just like we're talking about everything around us, alive, unalive, stress, emotions, all of it is part of our environment. And this environment can really impact our health. Let's talk about how it impacts our health. First, it can actually affect your genes. And this is amazing because, we kind of grew up thinking the genes are the genes. We have the genes and either, we have green eyes or have brown eyes. The genes are the genes. But there are some genes that give you a predisposition, an inclination to get something. But depending on what you're exposed to will determine whether that gene is switched on or off. Genes are just chunks of DNA, and they give us information. And when certain things are exposed to them, that information gets turned on or off. Think of an easy one to think of is diabetes, right? Grandma has diabetes, your aunt has diabetes, you have it in your genes. But unless you expose your genes to sugar, more sugar than you need, you won't turn on that gene. If you're living a healthy lifestyle, that gene won't turn on. You have a predisposition, but it's not your destiny. So genetics kind of loads the gun, but what your environment is will determine if that gun gets, triggered, shot. I don't know. I lost the metaphor somewhere, but you know what I mean. And this is especially true for those of you who are suffering from autoimmunity. Autoimmunity has a genetic component, but it also has an environmental trigger. My patients will always say to me, ever since X, I haven't been the same. So you need that trigger, and then you have a cascade of things that get turned on. So speaking of trigger, our environment also triggers inflammation. It could trigger the gene, but trigger the inflammation. So if your body is battling an assault of things from the environment and it's busy fighting and detoxing, that's going to cause chronic inflammation, right? Remember, chronic inflammation is that continuous low-level inflammation, not the quick inflammation you get from like falling down or cutting yourself. This low, long-lasting inflammation, if you've watched any of my episodes by now, you know that is your cause of your chronic I don't feel good-itis and your chronic illness. Because when you have inflammation, it produces these molecules called cytokines. These cytokines start creating like a constant attack for what it perceives to be foreign substances, and now you're just not feeling well. The environment, of course, also triggers the gut. The entire environment, not just the nutritional environment, your social environment, your biological environment, all of it is going to trigger your gut. So whether we're exposed to toxins, pesticides, foods, chemical-filled water, or stress, they all mess with the microbiome. And you know by now, if you're watching me, if you're this deep in the rabbit hole with me, you know that if you have an imbalance in your belly, in your microbiome, that is what leads to autoimmune disease, chronic issues, I don't feel good-itis, hormonal issues. You already know about the gut-brain connection, the gut-skin connection, the gut immunity connection, the gut-everything connection. So if our environment is going to trigger our gut, it is going to trigger a whole host of things in our body. So we have this constant onslaught of things from the environment, which is really scary. But the good news is that we come equipped standard with the ability to detoxify, right? We have our liver, which is a main worker in detox. It takes the toxin in your blood, makes them less harmful, tries to get it out. We have kidneys. Kidneys are your body's filter to help remove waste and excess stuff from your blood, and this ends up in your urine. You have your lungs. Every time you take a breath out, it helps get rid of small amounts of waste and toxins when you exhale. Your skin, when you sweat, stuff comes out with that water, and it actually helps you remove toxins. Your GI system, of course, as you break down your food, it eliminates waste, it eliminates toxins, comes out the other side. Your lymphatic system, right? Those lymph nodes that sometimes you press on all over your body, it has a whole network of vessels that collect and filter toxins and try to get them out of your body. And your immune system, its job is to defend against pathogens. So its job is to neutralize these bad guys. So like I said, the good news is we have a great detox system built in, and its job is to constantly get rid of toxins. The bad news is, however, that if we are exposed to so much, our body can't handle the load. So while our bodies, yes, have a natural equipment to handle a lot, the heavy volume from all of these environments is overwhelming. It's like trying to clean your room every day and suddenly dumping the contents of an entire house into your room. So it's just, you just can't keep up. Now, this is where functional medicine comes in, functional medicine, right? Conventional medicine tends to overlook these factors until it becomes a disease. Once it's a disease, conventional medicine likes to name the disease and find a correlated drug. And this paradigm is not wrong, but it causes us to disregard the root cause of diseases or the things that lead up to the disease and result in ineffective management of chronic diseases. On the other hand, functional medicine has a different way of looking at things. It's trying to understand why we get sick in the first place, not just treating the sickness when it shows up. Functional medicine begins to question why certain individuals get diseases, why others are not affected, what's happening in their life that causes them all these symptoms. Because as we said, even with genetic predisposition, you can influence how your genes behave by changing your environment. And this includes all the environments. So instead of just thinking of health as taking medicine to get better, you should be considering how our choices, how our environment are influencing our health. So this brings us to the next part, which is, okay, what do I do about it? How do I manage all this? The first part is we want to reduce the amount that we're exposed to. We can never go to zero, but as I said, your body has a system to detox. You just want to try not to overwhelm it. So you want to start limiting exposure. Can never go to zero, but bringing it down is nice. So limit your exposure at home. Most of the toxins are actually right in our homes, our cleaning products. Pretty ironic that we're trying to remove germs for the sake of our health, but we're actually exposing ourselves to a whole new set of risks from all the chemicals in our cleaning products. There are so many natural alternatives, and you can even make your own cleaning solutions. Then there's cosmetics and personal care products. If you take a look at those ingredients, some of them are pretty intense. Take a moment to read the labels whenever possible. See if you can switch to brands that are a little bit more transparent in labeling and use safer ingredients. Your water, is it clean and free of contaminants? Maybe getting a really good quality water filter is a good investment to remove some of the toxins. And of course, your living space. Make sure your home is well ventilated. Invest in good air filters. Don't forget to change them. I always forget to change mine. And consider bringing in some houseplants even, because they help to naturally purify the air. Unless you have cats. I have cats. Don't get the plants. It's a disaster. I've tried. Now, of course, we also then have to look at our nutrition, because again, with our nutrition, we're never going to get to perfect. My game changers know I am not striving to get to perfect. But if we can get to better than we were yesterday, better than we were a year ago, we are ahead of the game. Okay, there's a whole world. Food is not just food. It's information. It talks to your genes. There's a whole science called nutrigenomics, how the nutrition talks to the genes. It is so cutting edge. And in this world of nutrigenomics, the nutrients we ingest, they're switches. They turn our genes on and off. You change the type and amount of nutrients, and you're essentially flicking on different switches. This is how our food guides our genes to influence our health. All right. So we have that. And in addition to the usual, foods that I tell you to eat and don't eat the standard American diet, when it comes to detoxifying, I really want you to focus on fibers, because fibers, they go in and they help bind and detoxify toxins out of your body. So fibers, that's your whole grains, your fruits, your veggies, legumes, if you're allowed them. These are excellent fiber sources. And in addition to so many other things that they provide to your body, they help remove some of that toxic load. It's all about removing the toxic load. And a way to get rid of some of the toxic load you have is to sweat it out. So either through exercise, or if you can get yourself in a sauna, that is really going to help, because with the water on your skin, also a lot of chemicals come out. And water, don't forget you need water. You have to flush things out. Of course, you have to manage your stress, because that's part of your environment. Remember that stress turns on chemicals in your body that will mess things up. And none of this will work. You already know what I'm going to say. None of this will work if you don't sleep. If you haven't heard me say it by now, I don't care how much gluten-free ice you're going to have. If you're not sleeping, your health is not on point. End of sentence. You can't do all this and then just sleep for 2 hours. It's not happening. It's not working. When we sleep, our body goes into cleanup mode. If you want to detoxify, you better get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And then you always want to know supplements. So let me give you some supplements, because it wouldn't be one of my episodes without some supplements. And you already know, but I say just in case you're a first-time listener, supplements are supplemental. They are not instead of, they are add-ons. So in that spirit, first one is glutathione. Glutathione is called the master antioxidant. It is a crucial part of detoxifying your cells. You must have glutathione on board if you're trying to play the detoxification game. And it also helps our liver further detox. We produce it naturally, but when we have a heavy load on board, and as we age, we make less and less of it, so we need it. Moving on, probiotics and prebiotics. Gotta have it baseline. You just need it, whether it's from food or supplements. You need to consume probiotic-rich food, because they produce something called short-chain fatty acids, which bring down inflammation in the body and helps repair. And so we want to do that. Omega-3. There is no anti-inflammatory, antioxidant conversation without omega-3. You need your omega-3, whether you're getting them from fish or flax seeds, depending on what source you prefer. That's the anti-inflammatory game. You need omega-3 on point. Vitamin C. We know about vitamin C for boosting immunity, but it is also anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. We're playing the detox game. We need vitamin C. We also need alpha-lipoic acid, ALA, NAC if you want to. NAC is kind of a precursor to glutathione. These two help support detox. And lastly, let's talk about some amino acids, specifically taurine, glycine, and methionine. These three amino acids have a crucial role also in supporting detox and healthy cell metabolism. And you can find them in a lot of foods, fish, meat, but of course you can also get amino acid supplements. So just make sure it doesn't have any junky stuff in there. You don't want to add to your toxic load. So to recap, disease starts with inflammation, and inflammation comes from our environment. Nutritional, chemical, biological, and social. Time to take stock of your environment and see where you can make a change. It does not have to be all at once, but you have to start somewhere. And of course, if you need help, you can work with me and my team at The New Method. You can reach us on any platform except for X. And remember, it's called The New Method because you always knew there was a better way. I'll see you guys next week.